Hello everyone, Eric Chappell, Community Evangelist from Autodesk, and I'd like to welcome you today to our webcast, Creating a Virtual Reality Experience from an InfraWorks 360 Model. I'm very pleased to have Jeff Bartels with me today. He's going to be your primary speaker, but before we hear from Jeff, a couple of things I wanted to get out of the way. We have a really special webcast today where we get to be a little bit interactive. As you know, Jeff's going to show you how to build a virtual reality environment using an array of tools, and you can actually experience this for yourself with your smartphone. And if you're fortunate enough to have a VR viewer that you can slide your smartphone into or other supported device, in fact, we had a promotion for this webcast where we gave away 100 of those viewers that you see on your screen now to the first 100 people that registered. So I know we've got some people on the call that are fortunate enough to have one of these. But really, it doesn't have to be this one. It could be any Google Cardboard type viewer. There's lots of them out there on the market. I think Jeff's even going to share some more information on what's available a little later on. Another thing you're going to need for your smartphone is a QR code scanner app, because at one point during Jeff's presentation, he's going to put some QR codes up on the screen that you can scan, and they're going to take you to one or more of these virtual environments. So I've got some recommendations of apps that I have used and have worked. For the Androids, the QR Droid app is the one that works for me. I've got the icon of it up there, so if you want to go to the Google Play Store and search for that, that's what the icon looks like. And for the iPhone, I actually tested this out with my daughter's iPhone a few days ago. It's just simply called QR Reader, and you can see what the icon looks like there. Also for the iPhone, you'll notice when you get into the VR environments that Jeff's going to show you, when you turn your phone sideways is when it goes into stereo mode like you see on your screen there. And if you have the portrait orientation lock turned on, that's not going to work on your iPhone. So go into your settings and make sure that your portrait orientation is unlocked. Now, it's going to be a little while till Jeff gets you to the point where you can access any of these. So you have some time to find yourself a QR code reader and check your settings until we get there. Another thing we want to do is we want you to take a selfie with your Autodesk branded VR viewer, and if you do that and if you post it to Twitter using the iHeartCivil hashtag, we will hopefully find you and we will contact you and get your mailing information, and we'll send you an InfraWorks 360 t-shirt. So we want to see you having fun with your Autodesk branded VR viewer, and again, take a selfie. You may need help because, you know, holding the viewer up to your face and taking a selfie, I don't know that that's even possible. So at that point, it no longer becomes a selfie if someone helps you, but that's okay. But once you get that image, post it to Twitter, iHeartCivil hashtag. We're going to be watching that hashtag. We'd like you to have that done by the end of the day today, so we don't want to drag it out forever. So make sure you get your picture quickly after the webcast and post it sometime today, and we'll grab that, and we'll be in touch with you to find out where to send your t-shirt. And I do want to make a note, that's only available for U.S. residents. And also another side note, if you have Protect My Tweets turned on in Twitter, we're not going to see your post because it will be set to a private mode. So I don't think most people set that, but if you do and you're wondering why we didn't see it, that may be the reason. Okay, enough of the housekeeping stuff. I want to talk a little bit about our webcast series. Let me just pop out the questions window here to make sure we don't have anything going on. Somebody asked, what if we're too old for Twitter? Well, I would say, you know, it might be worth it for the t-shirt just to get on Twitter, because the t-shirts are so cool. It's worth it just for that purpose, and it's free, so yeah, why not? Okay, our webcast series, if you're new to it, and I'm guessing we have quite a few people who are new to it. We had a record number of registrations for this webcast, over 500 of them. So that's awesome. So that means we have some new people. This is something we do twice a month. Typically, it features folks from our product team. But today we've got a special treat in that we've got Jeff Bartels with us, who is actually from our sales organization. And Jeff has kind of established himself as the expert in this topic, and we knew it would be a very interesting and well-received topic. So we invited him in to be kind of a guest speaker for us for this day. But we do this first and third Wednesdays of the month, and we try to bring you folks, the users, a little bit closer to the makers of the products, and that would be the folks from Autodesk. And you know, it really isn't just restricted to the product team. Folks like Jeff and myself, you know, sales, marketing, the whole company, we all work very closely together and have a lot of influence over what goes into the product. And a lot of that influence actually comes from you folks, from conversations that we have with you either directly or through the community and that sort of thing. So we all have a hand in it. Our next webcast, really excited about this. I can't share too many details, but I can say that for Wednesday, January 4th, we're planning to share some information, some news about what's new in InfraWorks 360. And I have to be careful how I choose my words, but I definitely would not miss this. January 4th, 12 to 1. Sarah Cunningham, the product manager for InfraWorks 360, is going to be our speaker, and she's going to tell you about some of the things I can't tell you about right now. So make sure you register for that. As far as where you can register, you're going to find that information popping up on the community site, the forum, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the information I have on the screen right now. A couple of polls that we use to get information from you folks. The first one I'll launch is, what is your current usage level with InfraWorks 360? And if you don't mind, please take a moment to provide your answers to that poll. I don't believe you can see the answers, so I'm going to give you a little play-by-play. That currently the leader is with 31%. I regularly use it on some projects. The lowest number of responses has come in for I don't even have it installed. However, 12% of you are in that boat. So I think that's great news that we have folks on the call who are maybe just getting interested or are intrigued about InfraWorks 360, because I think seeing it will make you a believer very quickly. All right, I'm going to close that poll down, and we'll go to the next one, which is, if you use InfraWorks 360, what type of work do you do with it? Site design, road design, GIS data compilation, residential design, or visualizing projects? So let us know, those of you who use InfraWorks 360, let us know what you use it for. And again, I'll give you the play-by-play. Right now we're at 75%, 76% on visualizing projects, and the top three are kind of in a 40% tie, and the percentages are not going to add up in this case. I'm not horrible at math, because you can use you can choose multiple responses. So let's see, 40, 44, and 45% on the first three answers, 17 on residential design, and then 77 on visualizing projects. One more poll, and we want to know, in what areas of InfraWorks 360 would you like to see improvement for you guys who are using the product? So again, we're seeing 57% site design, 36% road design, 23 residential, 26 rail, 27 other. And for those of you who answer other, over in the questions pane, go ahead and just type in there what your other is that you're thinking of. And you know, maybe just for our information, or I may share that a little later. So just let us know what your other is. So thanks to everyone who responded to those polls. That information is very useful to us. All right, rolling right along. I want to tell you, I mentioned the community a moment ago, the InfraWorks 360 community. We have a community hub that is located at autodesk.com/InfraWorks360 Community. It's kind of a central hub for all the different resources that are out there that are community related. So these aren't marketing or sales resources. These are resources directly for you guys, the users. User forums where you can help each other out. Idea Station, where you can submit your ideas on what you'd like to see improved in the product, a lot more formalized than what we just did with the survey and some text in the questions pane. The Idea Station is really cool because you can post your ideas and then get support from other community members who vote for your ideas and say, yeah, this is a good idea, I want to see this too. And the more support you can generate around your idea, the harder our product team is going to look at it as a future solution that's implemented. The gallery, where InfraWorks 360 and Civil 3D customers share the work that they're doing. It's really exciting stuff in there. You'd be amazed at some of the ways that the products are used that you'd never think of. The social hub, which gives you a live stream of not only social media but blogs that are sharing information about our civil products, videos, including the recordings from this webcast series. And I'm happy to say that I need to count up how many of these we've done, but we've been doing this since 2 Aprils ago, and I have yet, and folks who have filled in for me have as of yet, we have not forgotten to hit record. So we've got a full library of every webcast that we've done in the past, and you'll find that library on the community site as well. A little disclaimer, I don't think this applies today, but I'd like to throw it out there anyway. If we happen to mention anything that's a preview feature or something that's in labs or in a beta, we just want to make sure that you don't make any purchasing decisions based on that. And basically what this is saying is there's no guarantee that a feature is going to be in the software until you actually see it in a fully supported version of the software. We also want to encourage you to ask lots of questions. Jeff's going to be the main presenter here, and he's going to be rolling with things here in just a minute, but I will be in the background either answering or fielding your questions. If we get a recurring theme or some especially interesting or relevant questions, I may interrupt Jeff. I've already warned him of that ahead of time to interject some questions, and then at the end, if we have any time, we'll air out some of your questions as well. So please don't hold back. Questions just make it that much more interesting and makes it that much more interactive. Unfortunately, because of the size of our group, we can't open the phone lines. It would sound like a zoo. So we have to handle the questions through the questions panel on the GoToWebinar interface. So that's it for my little preamble there. I'm going to turn the floor over to Jeff. Jeff, I'm making you a presenter now, and you have the floor, so please take it away.
Thank you, sir. I'm just bringing up my PowerPoint as we speak.
And I can see it just fine.
All right, there we go. Take and push this over. So welcome, my name's Jeff Bartels. I'm an infrastructure technical specialist here at Autodesk. Today we're going to be looking at how we can create a virtual reality experience from our InfraWorks 360 model. Before we get started, I just want to put in a quick plug for the blog that I contribute to. It's called Civil Immersion. We got the URL right here. Some of the technical specialists and I put this together about a year ago, and over the last year we've been posting at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. We post a lot of workflow tips, tricks, and ideas for the infrastructure, Autodesk infrastructure applications. So if you're interested, that's a great place to go to get information, help you take advantage of your Autodesk investment. So Eric mentioned the importance of having a QR code reader. Now the QR code, the vehicle that we will use to move the Stereo Panorama on our smartphone looks much like what we see here in the corner. I've got a screenshot of my phone. I happen to be an iPhone user, so I just went to the App Store, and this is the actual product I'm using, QR Reader, but you can use the QR Reader of your choice. So if you haven't gotten one of those already, you can jump over to the App Store and get that now while we run through the rest of the agenda here. So the next step, we're going to be looking at how the workflow to move our InfraWorks 360 model to create this virtual environment. It's much easier than you think. Many times when we consider the idea of virtual reality, we think, well, that's got to be expensive, that's got to be time-consuming, and that must have a really steep learning curve. We're going to find out today that we can create a very immersive virtual reality experience in just a couple of minutes. Once we go through the workflow, then we'll talk about some strategies that we can use to view and share those stereo panoramas with others. We'll also look at some best practices. I've been creating several of these over the last couple of months, and I've encountered some issues, and I've had to overcome those, so I thought I could share that information on this webinar as well. And then along the way, by all means, if there are any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box, and we can address those as they come. I always want to give credit where credit's due. I don't know if John Sayer's out there today, but John Sayer, my colleague here at the at the technical specialist org, he came up with this workflow, shared it with me. We've been doing some work back and forth trying to improve things a little bit, but he is the father of this workflow. I just wanted to acknowledge him for that. So that being said, let me jump out of my slides here. We'll go ahead and minimize that. I have got a ton of applications running today, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to start out here in InfraWorks. Here I've got a site plan that represents a fictitious fast food restaurant. You can see there's a ton of content in here. I've got a bunch of custom parts in here as well. Maybe one day we can do a session on how to create custom content for InfraWorks. So you can see my environment's pretty fleshed out. Now if I was going to try and get approval for this project, I mean, it's one thing to create a rendered image. It's another thing to create a fly-through animation. It's another thing entirely to create a virtual reality experience, actually put the stakeholder in the model. So the first step in creating that virtual reality experience is to export this model. I'm going to start, let me just roll out here. We'll get to a top view of this. And then to export the model, I'm going to come up and click the settings icon here, and I'll just say export 3D model. I would like to export this using a bounding box, and I'll go ahead and pick my upper left corner, and I'll come down and double click my lower right. So the area that I've identified here is this is the amount of my model that I'd like to use for my VR experience. You could certainly take the whole model if you wanted to, but I don't need that much in this case. When I export this, it's going to be exported as an FBX file. It'll be a single file. Let me go ahead and just click the folder icon here, and I'm going to save this in my exercise files folder. I'll just call this restaurant.fbx. And then when I export this, I'd like to export the materials and textures, and I'd like to merge objects with the same textures. Let me go ahead and click export, and it's going to go ahead and package this area up as a single FBX file. The nice thing is all the materials are going to go along for the ride. It's basically just creating a nice single object that I can then bring into another application to create my rendering. So now that that's finished, I mean, that was the hardest part right there. Let me minimize this, and then I'm going to bring up Navisworks. If you are someone who has the AEC collections, you have Navisworks. Navisworks is used to do a ton of things. We can do construction staging and 4D and 5D construction with this. We can do clash detection and stuff. It also does a great job with renderings. So all I'm going to do here when I get into Navisworks, I'm going to say open, and then I am going to jump into that folder. We'll grab that restaurant FBX file, and I'll click open. So I'm pulling this into my Navisworks environment. Now when this comes in, I'll have very much the same view controls here that I have in InfraWorks. So you don't have to, you don't have to spend a lot of time. There's no real learning curve using Navisworks for this. Let me click the top hotspot here on the view cube. That'll give me a nice top view. And then there are tools over here. Let me go ahead and click the orbit, and I can spin this around. I can roll the mouse wheel forward to zoom in. Let's orbit this a little bit more. Generally speaking, what I want to do here is position myself where I'd like to be standing in the virtual reality environment. Now this is a little bit different than taking a static image, because one thing to consider when you're in here is the person who views this as a stereo panorama is going to have the ability to look up, down, 360 degrees. They'll be able to turn around and look behind them. So when you create something like this, you want to consider the surroundings and try and create something that's going to have an interesting view from many directions. One way you can check that, if you click the eyeball here, the look around, this will kind of lock your view in space, and you can kind of orbit around, and okay, there's my sign there. You can look around and get an idea of what the viewer will see when they're in that environment. So at this point, maybe I like this. This looks good to me. To create the rendering, I'm going to go to the Render tab, and I'll choose Render in Cloud. This is going to render the model to the cloud. It's all going to be taken care of for me. Now the rendering requires, depending on your settings, it will require cloud credits. Let's take a look at that here. I want to render the current view. Output type, I'll change this to Stereo Panorama. And you can see no cloud credits required at this point. So here's where I could create my test renderings, make sure everything looks good. Once I get things the way I like, then I can go through and bump up the settings for render quality here. Just as an example, I could bump that up to final. I could set the exposure to advanced, and then we could set the width to 2046 pixels. So all of the samples that I'll provide today have been rendered using the highest setting, so you can get an idea of what those look like. So once I've adjusted my settings, I can come through and say email me when complete, and then I can click the start rendering button, and it'll give you an estimate how long it takes, it feels it may take to create this rendering. So here's where I click start rendering. At that point, everything's taken care of for me. It's all packaged. It'll be uploaded to the cloud, and I'll get an email when it's finished. Now, I've already rendered this, so let me close that. In the event, you get the email, you can click the hyperlink and it'll take you right to the render gallery where you can see the rendering. If you want to go to the render gallery just natively without, via a hyperlink in an email, you can, right here in Navisworks, I can access the render gallery from here. This is also how you can check the progress of your renderings to see how they're coming. So let me launch the render gallery, and I'll go ahead and sign in. And I'm going to sign in with my credentials here. And when this comes up, you can see the statistics here for several of the renderings that I've created to this point. Let me go ahead and open up the Chicken and Waffles site. Now, right now I can see the last rendering that I produced. If I hover over that, we can see some of the statistics. You can see the render time on that was 21 minutes. And note, this is not the only rendering I've created of this model. If I open up the menu here, we can see that I've actually rendered this one 6 times from different directions, just testing things out. This view here in the middle represents where we were standing just a minute ago when I simulated creating the rendering. Let me go ahead and click that. So when you select that, when the render's finished, you'll get a 360-degree panorama. Now it just takes a second for this to load on screen. Once it does, I can take my cursor and I can drag this around and get a look at the environment. If you look in the lower left corner, there's a checkbox here that says Preview on your phone. If you select that, it will create a QR code that you can use to scan, or it will also give you this hyperlink. From here, I could copy this to my clipboard, and then I could share that hyperlink with others if I wanted to give others a means of accessing this panorama. So that being said, that's how I create the virtual reality environment. That's how I create the QR code. Let me go back to my slideshow here. On my screen, I thought I'd give you a variety today. I've got some QR codes here that we can test. The one on the left represents the restaurant model that we just looked at. The code in the middle represents a bridge project that was done for the Hawaii DOT. And then got more of a creative example over here on the right. This was done by my colleague Angel Espinosa. So I thought I would include this. Now I know I'm running a risk by putting a Star Wars one in here that nobody's going to click on the ones that I did. They're all going to click on Angel's, but that's all right. I can live with that. So you can see I've got the QR code here to share. Now, if you've scanned that already, just hold up for 1 second. Let me show you the process that I like to follow when I scan these. I've just got an image there of my cell phone. I would tap my QR reader app, and then after I launch the app, in this case of my example, I scanned the code on the left, and from there I can see the 360-degree panorama. Likewise, I can see that hyperlink. Remember, the QR code is just a vehicle to load that hyperlink on your phone, so you don't have to punch it in manually. That being said, QR readers many times can include advertising, which might get in the way a little bit. One thing I like to do, it's not 100% necessary, but I like to do it is, since I use QR reader, I'll click this button in the lower right corner and I'll choose Open in Safari. That will take that hyperlink that I received and it will open it natively in Safari. And then once it's open, all I have to do is turn my phone into the landscape mode, and now I can see that stereo pair, much like the days of the ViewMaster, except now it's even better, it moves. ViewMaster was just a still image. Using this, we can take and look around in all directions. So at this point, this is where you can put the iPhone into or your smartphone into your VR viewer. Let me jump to the next slide here so I can keep those QR codes up. I'm going to try something dangerous here. I'm going to bring up my webcam for a second. Let's see if this works. There we go. So once I scan that, I've got my Autodesk branded viewer here. I took and assembled that. Basically, I can just drop my cell phone in here. I can hook the strap on the top, and I'm good to go. I can take and view my environment in 3D. I can look up, down, all around. I can be totally immersed in this environment. Let me take this out. Another thing, if this is the first time you've ever looked at one of these, I obviously wear glasses. It's better to take the glasses off. Believe it or not, this I don't know, maybe it does a little vision correction, but the models look quite well even if you're not wearing your glasses. Now, if you don't have a VR viewer, you can get these now at your local, your big box retail like Walmart or Target. Just go to the electronics department and you can find them there. Some of them they range from very inexpensive to ones that cost a little bit more, have nicer features. In the big scheme of things, it holds your phone. That's what it is. You can get Google Cardboard makes one. If you want something a little more substantial, this is one that I got. It's ViewMaster. Like I said, ViewMaster's been doing VR for 50 years. The same principle, and this is only just a couple dollars more than the cardboard versions. You can have a nice piece of hardware here. You just put the phone in there and snap it shut, and you're ready to go.
Hey Jeff, if you put that Autodesk Google Cardboard to your face, I'll get you a T-shirt. I'll get a screenshot of you with that.
You get me a T-shirt? All right, I'll do anything for a T-shirt.
All right.
All right. We good?
I got you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, now the only thing more dangerous than starting the webcam is trying to stop it. Let me do this. There we go. Okay, so another recommendation I would make if you want, since I have the sample up here, if you take and do an alt print screen, you can take a screenshot of what you're seeing on your monitor right now. That way you'll have those QR codes that, if you get a VR or a VR viewer later, or if you want to take an experiment with this. Another good point, you really don't need to have a special viewer to experience this. You can just use your smartphone as it is right now. You can take and turn that and see the stereo pair and be able to look around in these models. So I just want to make sure that I mentioned that. So, but if you take a screenshot of these, you'll have these for later if you want to take an experiment with different models. So, that being said, we'll talk a little bit about sharing stereo panoramas. When we create a panorama like this, we've got the QR code and we've got the hyperlink. The QR code is great to share for things that are visual or display, like PowerPoint presentations. Just imagine if you were trying to get public buy-in for a project, you could put the QR code up in your PowerPoint and you could have people at the meeting, stakeholders, residents take and scan that code and actually be inside that environment. Once again, it's one thing to show somebody a foam board, with a rendering on it. It's another thing to actually put them inside the model. You can also put these in brochures, documentation. You can print them in the newspaper. You can put them on your plan sets. If you've ever looked at a plan set and wondered, geez, I don't know what I'm looking at here, you could put a QR code there that you could scan with your phone and actually be standing inside the model. So another way we can share these is via hyperlink. That hyperlink is included with the rendering. This is perfect for things like social media or email. You put these on the company website as well. In fact, I like to share the models via the hyperlink because then it totally eliminates the need for the QR reader. I've been known to put these hyperlinks in my email signature. So anybody viewing my email on their phone, all they have to do is tap that hyperlink, and then they can view that virtual reality experience. So you're only limited by your creativity, how you want to take and share this information. So next I'd like to talk about some best practices. Like I said, I've done several of these over the last couple months, and I've seen some things that I've wanted to correct. We're going to look at a couple of them here. One I like to call dirty trees. You can see in my rendering here, it kind of looks like somebody took a black Sharpie and kind of scribbled up and down above these trees. Another one is white cars. Sometimes, you know, you render the parking lot scene, and some of the cars render white, and some of them render perfectly, and you may wonder why that is, so we're going to address that. Another one has to do with white materials. We saw this building had red and white stripes on it. You know, it had red awnings and black lights, but the first time that I rendered this through the cloud-based renderer, this is what I saw. So we're going to look at what causes white materials. So let me jump out of this, and then I'm going to minimize some things on my screen here. Let's go to, I'm going to jump back to InfraWorks, and we'll jump out to the home screen here. I've created just a little demo model. If I have to, I'll click that home screen again. There we go. Let me click VR Render Demo. And from here, we'll look at how we can address those issues. Let me go. I've got a bookmark here to zoom in. So with respect to the dirty trees, these trees are called oval hedge. This might be the only representation we have in InfraWorks of a conifer or an evergreen tree. But suffice to say, this particular tree will render with that extra. When moved through Navisworks into the cloud renderer, we'll get the extra black shapes. So the way to get around this is don't use these trees. Okay, every other tree that I've experimented with in InfraWorks works fantastic, and this one even renders fantastic in InfraWorks, but making that long journey into the cloud-based renderer, this one just seems to have a little bit of an issue. So my recommendation there is to take a look on the internet. There are tons of sites where you can download free 3D models. Just be cautious, you know, that if you do download models online, that you are following any applicable licenses. Make sure that you can use the model for the purpose that you intend. Now, I downloaded a tree. Let me bring up my Windows Explorer here. I'll go to Exercise Files, and I'll jump into OBJ here. Let me jump into my Evergreen folder, and I've just downloaded this one. Could be Arbor Vitae, possibly. There's my OBJ file as well as the supporting information. If I drag and drop this into InfraWorks, I can then say that this is a tree. If I click the 3D model, we can see that example right there. And if I go to geolocation, now since I downloaded this online, I can't guarantee it's going to come in perfectly sized. It'll actually come in quite large. Let me bump all those scales down to 1/10, and I'll choose interactive placing, and I'll just double click to put one of these in the model. So there we go. Now that I've placed that, I can, if I pan this over, I can pull that down, and now I can use this to replace these trees. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to jump. Let me jump back over here for a second. One thing I probably should have shown you, if I go to my site rendering here, if it'll show me Site 2. Maybe it's better I didn't try and show that. This is the one I was going to show has the issues with the cars and stuff. So for some reason that one's not showing up right now. We'll never mind. We'll come back to that in a second. So now that I have that tree, I can take and I can move these over to occupy the space of the ones that I already have, and then I can remove those. So the nice thing is I've grabbed this tree, I've tested this tree, and I know that this tree will render properly as in the VR environment. Another thing when it comes to the cars, In this case, if I was to render this model, export it as FBX, and then move it out of Navisworks through the cloud renderer, these two cars will turn white, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, if I was doing a site plan rendering and I wanted to maybe remove the attention from the vehicles and have more attention on the building, having white cars would be fantastic. So I guess I look at it could be a positive as well. It's just knowing which cars are going to be white and which ones are going to keep their materials. The way to tell: look at the license plate. You can see if it's got an Autodesk license plate, the materials on this vehicle are based on photographs, and those are the ones that render best in the VR viewer. All of them render fantastic in InfraWorks, but if you want to go to that virtual reality Stereo Panorama, you're going to want to take a car that's got the Autodesk license plate. That being said, let me see if I can show you. Yeah, that is not playing nice today. I was going to show you what I did to test that. I opened up my site plan or just created a small model, and I inserted every car that we had in InfraWorks, and then I rendered it and said, okay, which one of you are going to work with me and which ones are you going to turn white? And then once I identified there are 8 cars in InfraWorks that will render the expected color in the virtual reality viewer, and that's the thing that they have in common is the Autodesk license plate. So let's say you're like me and you've already created a model and you've got a ton of cars in there and you've gone through and aligned them all to various slopes on your surfaces. These actually aren't too bad to swap out. If I go to my style palette here, I can go to 3D model, and then I can open up vehicles. And this blue compact car, for instance, this is an Autodesk one. I can just drag and drop this onto one of my other vehicles. So I think I've got a silver compact car too. This one also has the Autodesk license plates. So I know when I use those vehicles, if I take that through the virtual reality Stereo Panorama, those are going to render just fine. So look at it that way. We can go either way. We can have vehicles with materials or without, depending on the vehicles that we choose. So one more thing. In my example in the PowerPoint, I showed you that several of my materials turned white in my building. Now that building was created in AutoCAD. I create a lot of my custom content using AutoCAD. I'm an AutoCAD guy. I've been doing it for more than 20 years now, so that just happens to be my fallback tool. If I need to create solids or 3D models, it's just very quick and easy for me to do that. So I created this menu board for the restaurant project, and as an example, if I was to render this menu board as it is right now through the Stereo Panorama, this will turn white. I'll still see the picture, I'll still see the menu, but the object itself will turn white. And let me show you what causes that. I'm going to jump over to AutoCAD here for a second, and I will open this menu board model. So this was built from just solids, extruded solids. If I change my visual style here to wireframe, you can see it's not highly complex geometry. Once again, maybe in the future we can get an opportunity to take a look at how to build some of this content here if you're interested. Let me go to realistic here again. So there's my menu board. Now I'm using the 3D modeling workspace. So that's why I'm seeing the 3D tools up here. And on the Visualize tab, if I go to Materials Browser, you can see that the materials that I grabbed from the library, here in the Autodesk library, there are hundreds, possibly thousands of materials we can choose from. I just grabbed this one called Smooth Red, and I added that to my drawing, and then I just dragged it over and dropped it onto the model. Now the problem, or the issue that I'm having, renders great here, renders great in InfraWorks, shows up white in the VR environment. If I click Edit, the reason is because this material is based on not a photo, it's based on an RGB value. So it's just it's like a homemade material. So what I did to fix that, let me bring up Windows Explorer here for a second, and I'll go to Exercise Files under Materials. You can see I've got an image there called Smooth Red JPG. Basically, I'm going to convert that material from RGB based to a photo. If I right-click on this, I can open this in my Photoshop Elements viewer here. So that's all I did. I mean, you can use the editing program of your choice. So you can see it was left at red there, but basically I just created an image, a square. Not even sure I remember how big this is. If I go to image size, it's 250 pixels. The size of this really doesn't matter because it's going to be tiled. But I came over to the color property here, and then I just punched in the RGB values that I needed, and then I took and just said fill this area with that color, and then saved it as a JPEG. So that's how I created the image. So to correct this one, I'll come down and I'll say new generic material. I want to make a new material here. I'm going to call this Smooth Red Photo. And then basing it on properties here, I'm going to click in the image field and I'll grab that red photo. Okay, now I could go through, if it does have slight nuances that are different than what I had before, I can go through and adjust, you know, glossiness and you know, reflectivity and stuff like that. But for the most part, I just wanted this to look like it was red paint. So let me drag this material over now, and I'll drop it on my parts. I will then drag my menu over, and I'll hold my control key to drop that on that front face there. And then once that's on that face, I will click the material mapping button. I will then control click that face, and I'll press enter to scare that material into lining up like it should. So there's my menu board, and at this point I could just export this. I can go here and say I can open up my application menu and go to export. I want to export this as an FBX, and we'll save it in that exercise files folder. Small menu board, that's good enough. Small menu board FBX, we'll just go ahead and save that. I want to export selected entities. I want to export the objects and the materials. Go ahead and embed the materials. Let me go ahead and click OK. And then when I come back to InfraWorks now, I can import that. I'll just go ahead and import one here. Let me take the one I had here before and we'll remove it. To import that, I can then come over back to my Windows Explorer. We can jump in and grab that menu board and just drag and drop it into the application. I'm going to place this as a city furniture, and you can see the 3D model there. Go to geolocation, and I want it to come in at this size. Let me choose interactive placing, and I'll just double click to place that in my model, and then I'll choose close and refresh. So this will render just fine in the VR viewer. Okay, so in essence, now it's going to work in all environments. So the trick to this that I've found is that the images have to be based on photos rather than RGB values. That's the biggest trick. Just for fun, let me see. This was my revised version, and the site may be experiencing some difficulties. You're going to have to trust me on that. That's why I made this one, to show that it does work. So we're going to have to rely on trust there. Let me go ahead and close this. All right. Let me jump back to my PowerPoints. So we've addressed some best practices here, ways to get around some of the common things that I've seen in the last couple months doing this. So in summary, we've learned that entry-level virtual reality is actually quite easy. We can do it in just a couple minutes. If I have an InfraWorks model, I can export that right through Navisworks and create a cloud rendering that creates a virtual, very immersive environment. And in the big scheme of things, since it's going through Navisworks, you could, you could do this with anything that can go into Navisworks. I could have created a virtual reality experience from that menu board if I wanted to. It's just being able to get that content into Navisworks and create the Stereo Panorama. Another thing, if you have the AEC collection, you have all of these tools right now. you can be up and running creating VR demonstrations today if you want to. And another thing I always like to say, if you do create any of these models, please share. I love to, I mean, I've got my VR viewer, I've got the models that I've created that I look at quite a bit. I always enjoy seeing the models that are created by people like you. We showed this technique, I've done a YouTube video on this, and then we showed the technique at AU 2016 this year. And since that presentation, I've gotten several emails that people have sent me of various things from a diverging diamond intersection to a stadium design. Another person sent me a treatment plant, and it's just fascinating to see some of the work that you guys are putting together using this technique. So, and I think Eric can correct me here if I'm wrong. I believe the InfraWorks gallery is going to be accommodating the ability to add these hyperlinks. We may be able to do it now, or it may be coming soon.
It can do it now. You can post Stereo Panoramas as one of the assets in the gallery now, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, fantastic. So that being said, I am ready to, I can address any questions that we have.
Okay.
If anything's come in.
Before we go there, I'm actually kind of curious how many of you used one of the VR viewers that we provided, or one of your own, and actually experienced some of the QR codes that Jeff provided. So if you did, please click the raise your hand button on your interface. I just want to get a sense of how many of you actually took the time to experience that. So I'm just going to scroll through real quick. Yeah, there's quite a few hands up, so that's great. You know, we experimented a little bit today with a more interactive webcast, so I'm glad to see that many of you participated in that. We did have some questions, Jeff. The first one that I'll scroll down to is, can you use 3ds Max to render instead of Navisworks? Can you address that?
You know what, if I would say if 3ds Max allows you to do the stereo panorama, I'm not as familiar with 3ds Max as I am with Navisworks, so I don't know what options that we have there, but if we can take, I believe we can export FBX into 3ds Max, and if that does provide the same access to the cloud-based rendering, or if it provides native access to creating stereo pairs, I would say why not. I think that you certainly should. I'm not that familiar with Max to know 100%.
Okay. Yeah, my answer was pretty much the same as yours. I think that you can access cloud rendering from 3ds Max, and if that's the case, then ultimately you're rendering it in the same place. It's just how you get there is different. Mm-hmm. Question about SketchUp and Revit objects. So if you're going to bring in, say, a building, whether it's from either product, is it better to bring it directly into InfraWorks and then go to Navisworks, or bring it directly into Navisworks? Do you have a feel for that?
No, I would say I would experiment with both and see which one workflow-wise works best for you.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation there.
One person commented that it was nice to see you live, so maybe you should consider doing that more, Jeff.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's the only time I've ever showed my face on a webinar, so might be the last time. Who knows?
Have you experimented with laser scans in the VR environment?
Laser scans, no, but
point cloud.
Oh yeah, you know, we did. Mr. Sayer shared a model that was created from a drone using the recapped photo. So he brought that mesh environment, I think it was like 85 acres. He brought that into InfraWorks and then passed that through into Navisworks and created the VR stereo panorama of that, so you could go out and shoot the site and actually be standing on the site and be able to look around. And let me say this, since that did come up, we noticed another caveat with that. Interesting anomaly, the data that he got from the drone was essentially one surface with a mesh photo over the top of it. If you brought that into Navisworks and did the rendering, it had to have at least one vertical component in it to create the VR experience. So he went over into one of the corners in InfraWorks and dropped in a bus stop sign just as a test to see if, and as soon as he put that in, then it created the rendering just fine. So since that came up, I thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah, that's a great tip. All right, one person asked if the recording would be provided, and the answer is yes. I am recording this. It takes a little bit to process, but it will be showing up on the community site. And you should get a follow-up email from GoToWebinar via me, I think, in a day or two, and that will have a link to the community site, actually the specific page where the recordings are posted. So yes, you will be able to review this, this presentation and share it with others who weren't able to be here in the future. One question was, can you embed a BIM model and export as a stereo panorama? And so I'm thinking, you know, a Revit building or something of that nature. And I actually know this one from my own experience because it was one of the stops on the virtual reality scavenger hunt at Autodesk University was a Revit building that I created. Same exact workflow. I dropped the building into Navisworks. I placed my viewpoint in the building, published it as a stereo panorama, and it was the same result. So absolutely yes, you can do this with a building. A couple of questions about being locked in one place versus being able to walk the site. So I just want to clarify that. The workflow that Jeff is showing you is a stationary viewer. So you're standing in one place, you're looking around in any direction, up, down, and all around, but you can't walk through the site. Now there is an Autodesk Live service that you can check into, and there's also a beta project that we're working on called Autodesk Play. So check out play.autodesk.com, and that's where we're experimenting with some more what's the word? More mobile virtual reality. So check those out for sure. Let's see what else we have here. There was a mention of Stingray, not really a question, but just wanted to throw that out there. If you're looking to turn your InfraWorks 360 environment into more of a gaming environment, and not so much just for fun, but to enable maybe a client to experience your project in that way as though they're walking or driving through it, it can be a really effective way to communicate how a project's going to come out. And we actually did a webcast on this, either the last one or the one before, and it's in the library of one of our Autodesk folks actually sharing that workflow of how to take an InfraWorks 360 model, move it through Stingray, and create a gaming environment that you can navigate, which is really cool. So a different experience than this. That's not virtual reality. It's you know, you're sitting in front of a screen, but you're able to navigate and move through the model, much like you would with a video game. So I think that pretty much covers all of the questions. So what I'm going to do, Jeff, are you pretty much wrapped up with the material you were going to present?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm wrapped up. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take over as presenter, and I'm just going to show my screen one more time. And I really just want to remind everybody that our next webcast is Wednesday, January 4th, and it's going to be about some news relating to what's new in InfraWorks 360. So we're going to hear from product manager Sarah Cunningham. I think many of you are familiar with her. You've either read her posts on the product roadmap, or maybe even had met her at AU, or had sat in on a webcast that she presented. But I'm sure what she has to tell us is going to be very interesting to all of you InfraWorks 360 users and whoever is even using other products but has an interest in InfraWorks 360. With that, I think we're going to wrap up a few minutes early, and I just want to wish everyone happy holidays. Have a great, relaxing time off if you've got some time off. I'm assuming most of you do, and I hope you have a great new year as well, and we at Autodesk hope to bring you many exciting things in the coming year. Thanks again. Thank you, Jeff, for a fantastic presentation. Thanks to all of you who submitted your information to receive the free viewer, and congratulations to those who made the first 100 and got their viewers, and apologies to those who didn't make the cut, but it was a fun interactive thing to do, and I think it was well received. So Once again, happy holidays, happy new year. We'll see you guys on the other side in 2017.